For 5 years, the narrative surrounding the Duke and Duchess of Sussex has been a relentless epic of exit, establishment, and explosive revelation. Their story, played out on the world's most dazzling and unforgiving stages, has been defined by seismic, public-facing events: Megxit, the Oprah interview, the Netflix docuseries Spare. Each was a calculated strike against the institution they left, a bid to reclaim their narrative on a global scale. Yet, according to sources close to the couple, a far quieter, more profound moment recently transpired within the walls of their Montecito home. It was not a clash with the press or the palace, but a private emotional reckoning, a heartbreak born not of fresh hostility, but of exhausted hope. This internal turning point, described as a sobering moment of clarity, has directly catalyzed the most significant decision in their post-royal lives, a fundamental strategic overhaul of their Archewell foundation. This is not a mere rebranding or a shift in charitable focus. It is a philosophical pivot from protest to purpose, from reactive to resilient. After half a decade defined by what they were against, this decision marks their definitive attempt to build a legacy defined purely by what they are for. Part 1. The 5-year crucible, building under siege. To understand the magnitude of this pivot, one must first appreciate the turbulent ecosystem in which Archewell was born. Launched in 2020, the foundation, alongside its audio and production arms, was conceived as the vehicle for their mission to do good. However, its infancy was immediately engulfed by the storms surrounding its founders. The reactive foundation. Archewell's early years were, by necessity, defensive. Its activities were often shadowed by, or forced to respond to, external narratives. Grants were scrutinized for perceived slights. Partnerships were analyzed through the lens of royal rivalry. Every statement was mined for subtext. The foundation's work in mental health, racial justice, and gender equity was impactful, but its public perception was inextricably tied to the Sussexes' personal grievances. The mission was pure, but the megaphone was constantly picking up interference. The impact entertainment dilemma. The unique Sussex model, leveraging commercial media deals, Netflix, Spotify, to fund and amplify nonprofit work, proved ethically and logistically fraught. The lines between content creation and philanthropy, between documentary and diaristic defense, became blurred. The 2022 Harry and Meghan docuseries, while a streaming triumph, ultimately served two masters: humanitarian storytelling and personal testimony. This duality, while compelling, risked making Archewell's charitable arm feel like an annex to an ongoing public relations battle. The fatigue of multi-front warfare. By late 2023, a palpable fatigue had set in. The couple had fought legal battles with the British tabloids, navigated a complex relationship with the institution, launched multiple commercial ventures, and raised 2 young children. The emotional and operational toll was immense. Sources describe a growing sense that their noble efforts were being perpetually undermined, their message diluted by the very noise they sought to quiet. The heartbreak, as relayed, was this realization: we have given our trauma more airtime than our transformation. Part 2. The emotional turning point. Anatomy of a heartbreak. The catalyst for change was not a single event, but a convergence of realizations, a perfect storm of clarity, as one confidant phrased it. The children's perspective. A primary source of this heartbreak was looking at their work through the eyes of Archie and Lilibet. As the children grow older and become more aware of their unique place in the world, Harry and Meghan were reportedly struck by an urgent question. What is the foundational story we are building for them? Is it one of perpetual conflict and correction, or one of proactive, joyful contribution? The desire for their children to inherit a legacy defined by tangible, positive change, rather than by a protracted family dispute, became a non-negotiable priority. The unsustainable personal cost. The couple privately acknowledged the corrosive personal costs of maintaining their former strategy. The constant state of vigilance, the emotional labor of revisiting past wounds in service of present projects, was draining their creative and philanthropic vitality. There is a difference between being resilient and being in a perpetual state of recovery, a source close to their philanthropic circle noted. They reached the point where they realized that to truly serve others, they first had to surgically remove the sources of their own persistent professional anguish. The diminishing returns of revelation. The era of major revelations had arguably reached its logical conclusion. Spare had provided Harry's cathartic, definitive account. The couple had said what they needed to say. Continuing to operate within that paradigm offered diminishing returns and risked defining them solely as biographical figures rather than as transformative leaders. The heartbreak was the recognition that they had become, in the public imagination, characters in their own story rather than authors of a new one. This emotional pivot point, this private heartbreak over a narrative slipping from their control, led to a sober strategic conclusion. Archewell, as currently configured, could not outrun the shadows of its founder's past. It needed not a tweak, but a transformation. Part 3. The Major Decision. A major decision, a three-pillar reinvention. The major decision, therefore, is a holistic reinvention of Archewell's ecosystem. It is built on three interconnected pillars designed to ensure longevity, focus, and insulation from external drama. The firewall strategy. Institutionalizing independence. The most drastic operational shift is the deliberate and formal separation of the Archewell Foundation from the personal brand of Harry and Meghan. This involves leadership and governance, appointing a renowned independent CEO and a heavyweight board of directors from the realms of global philanthropy, finance, and social entrepreneurship. The couple will transition to visionary founder roles, setting broad strategy but ceding daily operational control. Funding transparency, moving towards an endowment model, funded by the couple's commercial earnings but structured to ensure the foundation's financial independence and long-term stability, insulating it from the ups and downs of media ventures. Communication discipline. All foundation communications will be strictly forward-looking, focused on grantee impact, research, and advocacy. The personal narratives of the Duke and Duchess will be intentionally absent from its official voice. Pillar 2. Thematic consolidation. From broad cause to deep impact. Archewell will narrow its focus from a broad portfolio of causes to one or two deeply interconnected, measurable verticals. The likely consolidation is around information integrity and digital compassion, a field that directly addresses the root of much of their lived trauma. This umbrella would encompass fighting online hate and disinformation, promoting humane social media design, supporting mental health in digital spaces, and funding media literacy for youth. This focus is strategically brilliant. It is globally relevant, leverages their personal experience without requiring them to relive it, and positions them as advocates on a pressing, apolitical human issue. It transforms their status from victims of the media to architects of a healthier digital ecosystem. The commercial philanthropic flywheel reengineering. The relationship between Archewell Productions and audio is being redefined. No longer will content projects be dual purpose. Instead, commercial ventures, Netflix, future projects will be unabashedly commercial, focusing on high-quality, entertaining content. Any project with a social impact angle will be developed under strict, transparent editorial guidelines. The foundation will independently fund or partner on specific impact-driven initiatives, e.g., funding a research study on the mental health effects of online misogyny, which could then be the subject of a documentary produced separately by Archewell Productions. This creates a cleaner, more credible flywheel, commercial success provides financial fuel for the foundation. The foundation's work identifies compelling, human-centric stories that can inspire commercial content, but each operates with its own integrity. Part 4. The calculated risks and inevitable criticism. Such a radical shift is not without significant risk and certain critique. The risks. Loss of personal connection. Their personal story has been their engine. Can Archewell inspire the same level of donor and public engagement if their compelling biographies are deliberately muted from its messaging? The vanilla trap. In seeking a controversy-free zone, might they become too safe, losing the distinctive, disruptive edge that made them compelling to begin with? Execution hurdles. Finding a CEO of sufficient stature who can navigate the unique Sussex spotlight while asserting total independence is a monumental task. The transition itself will be a period of vulnerability. The inevitable criticism. Strategic retreat narrative. Critics will frame this as a retreat, a sign that their previous model failed, or that they are finally yielding to pressure. Lack of accountability. They may be accused of creating a buffer to distance themselves from future operational controversies. Hypocrisy on transparency. Their commercial media deals, particularly with Netflix, will continue to be scrutinized. Any perceived conflict will be highlighted, testing the strength of their new firewall. Part 5. The legacy play, building for the century. Ultimately, this decision is a profound legacy play. It is a bid to transition from global celebrities to institution builders. For themselves, it is an act of profound self-preservation and maturation. It declares that their 30s were about defining their story. Their 40s and beyond will be about building their substance. For their children, it creates a tangible, respectable, and conflict-light institution for Archie and Lilibet to potentially engage with as adults, one that carries their family name without the burden of its immediate past disputes. For the world, it represents their best chance to achieve the kind of systemic, scalable impact they have always professed to seek. A well-funded, professionally run foundation focused on the digital information crisis has the potential to affect billions. The heartbreak that precipitated this decision was, in a strange way, a gift. It was the exhaustion of the old path forcing the courage to carve a new one. It shattered any remaining illusions that they could simply outlast or out-argue their critics, and instead demanded they outbuild them. The story of Harry and Meghan is now entering its second decisive act. Act 1 was about escape and testimony. Act 2 is about construction and legacy. The major decision at Archewell is the cornerstone of this new phase. It is a gamble of monumental proportions, betting that the power of a well-engineered, purpose-built institution will ultimately prove more enduring and more healing than the power of their own extraordinary, world-famous story. The heartbreak of the past 5 years has not vanished, but it has been metabolized. It is no longer the fuel for their fire. It has become the foundation upon which they are determined to build something truly lasting. This response is AI-generated, for reference only.